everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sugar and Spikes podcast. All right, I'm super excited to be with you guys today, and I'm super excited to talk about kind of today's topic. And really, I just want to open this by saying I actually just got off the phone or Skype or whatever with a new coach. That's right, even coaches have coaches. It's just like how therapists often have therapists, and every therapist will say that everybody needs a therapist. So yeah, I got off the phone with a new coach that I have, and I'm super excited. And it's not because like I left the call feeling like super stoked and thrilled about everything. Yes, but the thing is like, guys, that call was fucking work. It was a lot of internal work and consideration just as we were kind of talking. And it was really nice and really good and necessary, because I think a lot of times in like the personal development realm, we get so hung up around the idea of do what feels good, do what feels easy, do what feels right, and things don't need to be hard, they don't need to be work, and all of that stuff. And here's the deal, like, I really call bullshit on that, and I think I've called bullshit on it a couple times before on this podcast, but just like going through the call and thinking about everything, and looking back at these last few months, like, it's when you do the work, like as an entrepreneur, or even if you're fucking like up leveling in your job or whatever, it's work. And like growth is work. When you strengthen your muscles get stronger because they break and regrow, and that growth is your body working because it's broken. Like, it's this continual cycle of breaking down and building up, breaking down and building up. And so few people want to talk about that. And the thing is like, we are constantly going through that cycle anyways, but we never want to address it. Okay, so how many of you guys have like started something and then when it got hard or uncomfortable, or it wasn't like super fitting, you started something and then you stopped it, right? Like we've all done that, where we've done something and it fit for the time and then it wasn't as easy, so then we just completely dropped all of it, walked away, and then got hit with inspiration again to pick it up and kind of started that cycle, right? And that cycle is not super fun. That cycle is work without much growth. I mean, you learn things, you come away with some more resolve and pieces like that. But like, it's like when you go to the gym and then you start to get in shape and then you stop and you just like walk away for another 6 months. Like, you have to rebuild that work, versus if you were to have gone like consistently, you'd be in a completely different spot, right? So like, we're always doing the work, and it's the consistency piece that is hard. And it's this message that comes and goes throughout the personal development world of, well, it should be easy. It should be easy. If it's hard, then stop doing it. That's what's causing this like breakdown, right? And it's complete bullshit. So that was a tangent that I was not expecting, but yeah, so I got off the call and it was work, and it was good work. And one thing that kept coming up was I just kept going into like, well, I don't know. Like, she asked me a question and I'd be like, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Well, what about this? Well, I don't know. Like, to the point where I almost started to get like defensive or upset, or just like having not a like super positive reaction. But like, that was fine. Like, I was able to navigate my shit and get through it, which is cool. But it leads me to like just one of the most basic questions that I really want to challenge you over right now. Like, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, like if you're driving, if you're going for a run, if you're listening to this at school or at the office or whatever, like the first thing is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like seriously, like stop and realize what you're doing right now. Honestly, like you may not even realize fully what's going on. Like when we drive to and from work and shit, like we go on autopilot. How many times have you driven home from somewhere without like, and gotten home and been like, oh, well, we're here already, you know, like things like that. So take a second and notice what exactly it is you're doing. And then my challenge around it is why? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Further around it, like, does it excite you? Like, are you doing something that, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you can't wait to get to? Or, like, even if you can't wait to get to it because you kind of hate it, like working out or something in the moment, but then after you feel so much better and you like the results, like, do those results excite you? Does whatever it is you're doing, does it make your heart skip a beat? Does it make you catch your breath? Like, does it contribute to like this contagious idea of happiness and fulfillment in any way? Maybe you're going to your job, right? And maybe you're not a super big fan of your job, but the job pays so you can go hiking on the weekends and you love having like the best gear to go hiking, or it pays for you to keep your side hustle going, you know, things like that. Does it contribute to something that feeds your soul? Because if not, then that's where we start to get problems, and that's where we go into this really like long kind of shitty cycle of starting something and stopping something and not really seeing the growth that you get from habits and stuff that you'd really like to see, right? Does that make sense? So the thing is like further, so if you were able to answer those questions, then great. But maybe you weren't, because I mean, I wonder how many of you guys out there have something that actually does excite you and make your heart skip a beat and, you know, force you to catch your breath and have like those really awesome butterflies that we all know and love, right? And the thing is like I was challenged around this maybe a year or so ago by somebody, and honestly, you guys, like I didn't understand it. I was just like, what? I work, I hang out, I do my thing, and that's it. Like I don't understand why you're telling me I need to have a passion around something. Like I don't understand it. And then I did some work around it because that's kind of ridiculous. Right? But, and like I clearly found my thing, I found my passion, which is this and all the content and stuff that I do. Like if I wasn't passionate about this stuff, like I wouldn't do it. If I wasn't passionate about helping you guys, like I would have walked away and done something that was a lot easier, a lot safer, a lot more quote unquote realistic. But this is my thing. This is my passion. But like we walk through life doing all the things that we should do. And I don't want to get on this cliche topic of, follow your passion, don't do what you feel you should do. But like even as an entrepreneur, even as a creative, even as someone that, I feel like I'm actively, continuously challenging myself and following my active passion in the moment, or even you badasses in the corporate realm that, love the thrill of closing a deal or love getting approval on whatever awesome project you're working on. We get so caught up in following it that we regulate the passion and then end up losing the passion and the happiness around it. Does that make sense? Like humans have the ridiculous ability of taking something so magical and putting rules on it to where the magic and beauty is lost. I can think of a million different things like art. Like, how many of you guys have read an art book and there have been rules around it, but then there's always that one like artist that pops up and challenges everything we've known, or even movies that start off with like no rules and then there are. And that can be said with anything. Because we really like to put things in boxes. Once we like something, we want to capture it and harness it and put it in a box. And you can't do that with everything. So I think if you've lost the spark, if you've lost the passion, and if you've turned everything into a should, it's super important to stay connected with that initial spark and passion, right? Like, I think anybody would agree with that. But the challenge is how. And so I'm pretty stoked to kind of go over right now, because I was thinking about it and challenging myself. Because, like, guys, I'm a huge fan of routine. Like, very much a huge fan of routine, so much so that like it's almost to a fault, which is a whole other thing I'm working on. But like, I work from home and make my own schedule and stuff. But the thing is like, I put rules on my schedule, and sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not so great. So the idea of staying connected with passion is really big and something that I know I'll be continuously working on. And I figure, well, if I'm working on it, then maybe you guys, maybe someone out there in podcast land is working on it too. So I wanted to toss up some of these handy tips, right? Okay, so the first one is make note of when you feel the passion and when you feel the spark, and when you find yourself, responding to a situation in an excited way that normally doesn't happen. Make note of it. So, maybe you start to find trends in it, and maybe you start to realize you had a passion for a hobby that you didn't even know, or, maybe it's more rare and it's something that you want to hold on to. But it starts with being aware that those things happen. So when I was being tasked with figuring out what the hell my passion was, I stopped going through life just kind of like blindly operating, and started to notice, well, I really do like working out, and I like a lot of the things associated with working out, and I like writing. Like, I love writing, and I love making things online, and I like doing all these things. Like, I started to notice when I would lose track of time. That was really one of my big clear indicators. So, maybe try going a couple days being more self-aware, and like, if you catch yourself feeling happy or good about something, make note of it. Okay, so because like, you can't go back to something if you're not aware that it's actually happening. And then another piece is journal about it. And this can be either like in past tense, like, that was really great when, or it can be future journaling. And I first heard about future journaling from one of my favorite personal development peeps, one of the queens in the space, Miss Cara Alaleva. She talked about it on her podcast, Style Your Mind. And I thought that it was so great. Like, I think she referred to it as vision journaling. Because she was talking about it in terms of maybe like, if you're not into vision boards, try vision journaling. And so, and it's pretty much just like writing out what you want the next steps to look like, right? What you want your next adventure in life to be, all of those things. And the way I do it sometimes is I will think about a passion that I have and what would be a really like awesome like checkpoint for that passion. Like, I love connecting with audiences and public speaking and things like that. And so like, I would do a vision journal around, well, I was speaking at TED and I said this, and, things like that, to really kind of get the creative juices and inspirational flow going. So you can either journal about the experiences where you found your passion and channel into that feeling that way, or think about ways that it would look like in the future and develop the passion and the determination to get to like those pieces that time. Another piece is like have trinkets and reminders around of really good times. Like if you love to travel, like of course have things from your travels around, so then you have just like this constant reminder. Like I have a picture of a girl in Paris in my office, and like it's super cliche and everything, but like one of the best days of my life was the 24 hours that I spent in Paris. And when I get really exhausted and when I want to stop doing things and when I want to pause and when I'm just kind of done with all of it and I want to walk away from everything because it's all too crazy, I see Paris and I'm like, oh, yeah, I really want to go back and I want to do that. And like I connect it with those like longer term things, right? And it sparks that moment. Like looking at that painting, I'm able to go back into that time where my heart was all aflutter because I was walking through Paris, right? And then also like do things that tie in with what your passion is. And this sounds super, super basic and common sense. But the thing is like if you're putting rules and regulations around like the way you develop your business, the way you develop your content, the way you do things at work and stuff like that, like be sure to incorporate the stuff that you love. So I mentioned that I love public speaking, and that's one of the things that's super important, and like it speaks to me, it feeds my soul, and it's one of the easiest ways I connect with people. I took that and like, I mean, I could work at finding public speaking engagements, and I actively am. But I took that and turned it into a podcast to where I control it and I can do it when I want and when I feel inspired and all of these awesome things, right? Something that I can make my own and have full control over. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Does that make sense? And you can also kind of work through that if you do your like vision journal or passion journaling, where you come up with this huge goal and then you can kind of like journal the back steps and how it felt to go through each step, and pieces like that. So that's really all I had for today is like, no matter what you're doing, just stay really fucking clear on why and make sure you're creating those sparks as often as you can, because the more inspired you walk through life, the more high vibe you're going to be and the more willing you are to take those risks, and the sooner all of the really awesome good stuff is going to come. So that's all I have for today. And if you guys are thinking about maybe starting like a side hustle, or you have one going but you're not super clear on it, or like it started out as a passion project but then it turned into just too much, I'm starting a really awesome mastermind that's starting around December, January. We can talk about that piece, but it's super great. It's going to be me and a handful of badass women who, you know, we're doing all the things and taking on life as best we can. And it's going to be a place for authentic connection, growing our passions and our business in a way that is sustainable as we go through the rest of our lives. That's something that's super important to me, is having like sustainable business development, whether or not it's a full-time gig, a side hustle, if you are working on a personal development plan for work, like whatever. This is going to be a place to have safe, authentic growth, create connections, get really clear on next steps, why you're doing what you're doing, how to like develop it in a more like not streamlined but more sustainable way. All of the details are on my website. If you go to DesireeW.com/VIP, you can check it out there. You can also just email me, Desiree@action-attitude.com, if you want more information. Also, I'm just continuously on all of the social media. I'm at DezWMsMBA, so that's DezWMsMBA. So feel free to reach out about the mastermind or working one-on-one with me. I just relaunched my one-on-one spot, you guys. I'm super stoked. Recently, I just got hit with like this desire to work with a few folks, just, you know, one-on-one in a more intensive zone, and with my one-on-one packages, you get complete access to me via Voxer or Facebook or whatever your messenger of choice is. So there's that. The info is on my website and you have my contact info also. So yeah, that's all I have for today. I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.